Somebody in this room needs to hear this today. Put God first. See, we live in a world that tells us to chase success, chase money, chase influence. But what if I told you that when you chase after God, everything else will chase after you? The word says in Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That means when God is at the top of your priority list, he takes care of the rest. Stop chasing what God is trying to add. Everything in life is built on a foundation. The strength of that foundation determines how well you stand when the storms of life come. Some people are wondering why everything around them keeps falling apart, why relationships keep breaking, why businesses don't last, why peace seems impossible to find. But the real issue isn't the storms, it's what you're building on. If your life is built on temporary things, money, status, popularity, human approval, then it will always feel unstable. But when you build your life on God, when you make him your first priority, everything shifts. When God is the foundation, no storm can destroy what he has established. The enemy may attack, challenges may arise, but when your life is rooted in him, you won't be shaken. You may bend, but you won't break. You may stumble, but you won't fall. Because God is your source, your strength, your foundation. Too many people chase after success before they chase after God, and they wonder why they feel empty once they get what they thought they wanted. A big house with no peace is not a blessing. A high-paying job without purpose is not fulfillment. A relationship without God at the center will always feel incomplete, because true success is not measured by what's in your hands, but by what's in your heart. If you put God first, he will order your steps. He will guide your decisions. He will build you up so strong that no attack, no setback, no disappointment will be able to take you down. But you must decide, will you build your life on a firm foundation, or will you keep trying to do it your way? Because only what is built on God will last. There comes a time when you have to make a decision. Who comes first in your life? See, it's easy to say God is first, but if we're honest, many of us have put other things before him. Some have made their job their God. Some have made money their God. Some have made people their God, chasing after validation, approval, relationships, and opinions instead of chasing after the one who created them. But let me tell you, anything you put before God will eventually fail you. If you put your trust in money, what happens when it runs out? If you put your identity in your career, what happens when the job is gone? If you build your life around a person, what happens when they walk away? That's why God said, you shall have no other gods before me, because he knows that when you place him first, everything else falls into place. When God is first, you don't have to worry about where your provision is coming from. He is your provider. When God is first, you don't have to fight for recognition. He is the one who elevates. When God is first, you don't have to manipulate circumstances. He will align everything in your favor. See, the problem is not that we don't love God, it's that we keep trying to fit him around our plans instead of making him the center of them. We say, God, I'll pray when I have time. I'll go to church if my schedule allows. I'll seek you right after I take care of this other thing. And then we wonder why we feel disconnected, lost, and overwhelmed. But today, God is saying, put me first. Before the business, before the dream, before the money, before the relationship, put me first. Because when you put God in his rightful place, everything that is out of order will start to come into order. Peace will return, clarity will come, strength will rise, and the weight you've been carrying, the stress, the worry, the pressure, God will lift it off your shoulders because you've finally given him his rightful place in your life. Ambition is a powerful thing. It drives us, pushes us, and makes us strive for greater. But ambition without divine direction is dangerous. There are people who have fought their way to the top only to realize they climbed the wrong mountain. There are people who chased opportunities, forced their way into rooms, and sacrificed everything to get ahead, only to discover they were running after the wrong thing. Because here's the truth: your talent can take you places, but only God's direction can keep you there. You don't just need success, you need sustained success. You don't just need an opportunity, you need the right opportunity. You don't just need open doors, you need the doors God ordained for you. And when you put God first, He will direct your steps in ways you never imagined. The Bible says in Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He shall direct your paths. That means there will be moments when what you want and what God knows is best won't align. There will be times when you'll have to walk away from things that look good because they're not God. There will be times when doors will close and you won't understand why until later, when you see that God was protecting you from something you couldn't see. When you put God first, you don't have to force things to happen. You don't have to chase opportunities. God will align them. You don't have to manipulate people. God will send the right connections. You don't have to live in anxiety, constantly wondering, am I making the right decision? Because when you acknowledge God first, He will make the path clear. There are people who have everything the world calls success, but still feel lost because they followed their own ambition instead of God's direction. But when you put God first, you won't just be successful, you will be fulfilled. Because success without purpose is empty, but success aligned with God's plan is life-changing. Chaos is often a sign that something is out of order. Some of us are living in a constant state of frustration, stress, and exhaustion, not because we aren't working hard, but because we are trying to do life on our terms instead of God's order. And anytime you try to build something without God in His rightful place, you will always feel like you're running in circles. Some of us have been praying for peace, but peace doesn't come from more money, more success, or more recognition. Peace comes from alignment. When your life is out of alignment with God, confusion will take over. But the moment you put Him back in first place, clarity returns, direction becomes clear, and that weight you've been carrying suddenly lifts. Think about a house that is cluttered, disorganized, and chaotic. You wake up feeling overwhelmed because everything is out of place. This is how many people are living spiritually, trying to function in the middle of disorder. They want peace, but they don't want to follow God's order. They want blessings, but they don't want to obey God's instructions. They want elevation, but they don't want the discipline that comes with putting Him first. The reason why many are struggling is because they are trying to control everything. They are trying to manage their own blessings, fix their own problems, and force things to work in their favor. But here's the truth. When you put yourself in control, you also put yourself under pressure. That's why you're anxious. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you can't sleep at night, because you are trying to carry a weight you were never meant to bear. But when you put God first, He takes control. When you put God first, He fights your battles. When you put God first, He goes ahead of you and clears the path. And suddenly that chaos that once consumed you begins to disappear. You don't have to live in a constant state of stress. You don't have to keep running in circles. The moment you decide to put God first is the moment things begin to shift. You will see doors open that you couldn't open. You will feel peace in situations that once overwhelmed you. You will realize that everything you were chasing was never the answer. God was. Obedience is the key that unlocks the blessings of God. Too many people want the reward without the requirement, the blessing without the obedience, the elevation without the surrender. But God does not operate on our terms. He operates on His. And when we put Him first, it means we are willing to trust His way, even when we don't fully understand it. Some of us are struggling not because we lack talent, not because we lack opportunities, but because we have not fully surrendered to God's instruction. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. When God tells you to move, but you hesitate. When He tells you to let something go, but you hold on. When He speaks, but you ignore it because it doesn't fit your plan, you are delaying what God is trying to release in your life. Look at Abraham. God told him, leave your country, your people, and your father's household and go to the land I will show you. Nowhere in that command did God give him all the details. Nowhere did God lay out a 5-year plan. God simply said, go. And because Abraham obeyed, God blessed him beyond anything he could imagine. See, your obedience is not just about you. It's about everything connected to you. There are blessings on the other side of your obedience. There are people waiting for you to step into your calling. There are doors that won't open until you do what God told you to do. Some of us have been praying for elevation, but God won't promote what He cannot trust. He is waiting to see if you will obey in the small things before He releases the big things. He is watching to see if you will be faithful when no one is watching, if you will follow His voice when it doesn't make sense, if you will trust Him when the road is unclear. Because when you obey God, you don't have to chase blessings. Blessings will chase you. You won't have to manipulate people. God will send divine connections. You won't have to beg for an opportunity. God will open a door that no man can shut. But it all starts with obedience. Obedience precedes elevation. Surrender precedes breakthrough. Trust precedes transformation. And when you put God first, you will see Him do things in your life that no amount of hustle, strategy, or effort could ever accomplish on its own. When God is first in your life, everything comes into alignment. Too many people are living out of order, trying to force things to happen, trying to make things work in their own strength. But when you put God in His rightful place, blessings don't just come to you, they flow through you. Think about a water pipe. If there's a blockage, no matter how much water is available, it won't flow properly. Some people are experiencing delays, frustrations, and struggles, not because God, and the blockage is misalignment. When God is not first, when priorities are out of place, when obedience is delayed, it disrupts the flow of what God is trying to do in your life. But the moment you put God first, things start moving. The flow returns. What was held up is released. What seemed stuck starts shifting. Because when your life is aligned with God, you no longer have to fight for what is already yours. See, when you put God first, favor follows you. You don't have to manipulate your way into a blessing. God will position you for it. You don't have to force your way into a room. God will put you in places you never imagined. He will order your steps, establish your path, and connect you with the right people at the right time. When God is first, opportunities find you. When God is first, doors open that no man can shut. When God is first, the weight you've been carrying, trying to figure everything out, trying to make things happen, it lifts because now you're walking in divine alignment. Some of you have been struggling because you've been chasing what you should be receiving. You've been striving for what should be flowing to you. You don't have to chase blessings when you are aligned with the blesser. But alignment requires trust. It requires surrender. It requires you to stop running ahead of God and start walking in step with Him. And when you do, you will see that everything you were trying to make happen in your own strength was already prepared for you. You just needed to align yourself with God's plan, because when you do, everything changes. When God is first, your foundation is unshakable. When God is first, He takes His rightful place as your source. When God is first, you don't have to force your way through life. He orders your steps. Too many people are struggling, striving, and stressing because they're trying to build without God. But a life built on ambition alone will crumble. A life built on money alone will never satisfy. A life built on people's approval will leave you empty, but a life built on God, that is a life that stands through any storm, that overcomes any challenge, that thrives in any season. So today is a call to realignment. A call to stop trying to fit God into your plans and start surrendering to His. A call to put down the weight of trying to control everything and trust that God's way is better. Because when you put God first, blessings don't just come to you, they flow through you. Doors don't just open, you walk through the ones He ordained. You don't just survive, you thrive. You don't just get by, you walk in the fullness of His promise. So this is your moment to decide. This is your moment to shift. This is your moment to put God first, because when you do, watch what He does next.